Joining me now to break this all down, including this very moment and what comes next, is conservative activist Scott Presler. So Scott, I know you've been doing a lot of hard work on the ground in crucial swing states in the Midwest, as well as Pennsylvania in particular. So before we get into what you're doing next, I want to talk about your response so far to what you've seen this election season.
It's been crazy. I've never seen so many people who have never voted in their entire lives register to vote. I've never seen so many minorities and women joining the Republican Party. And as it stands, it looks like Republicans have made big gains with women in the House of Representatives. I think this has been a historic election for the Republican Party, and it's under the banner of President Donald Trump.
And you know, Scott, I, of course, give you credit all the time, but I think that the Republican Party needs to start looking at what you're doing as well. You have been on the ground in states like Pennsylvania registering voters, and we're looking at a race now about how close this is going to be. And it's not just Pennsylvania. You've been all over the country doing cleanup efforts, but also registering voters as well. So I want you to speak a little bit about that, but also what you're planning to continue to do with these events.
It's the most important thing we can do if we want to continue to win elections. We have to grow our party. We can't just sit back and focus on the base who has voted Republican for the last 50 years. We need to focus on the future, and I'm a forward thinker. This was never about 4 months or 4 years. This was about 40 years down the road. And so even now, as we move towards Thanksgiving and Christmas in the future, I want you to ask everybody you know, are you registered to vote at your current address? And if you're not, then I want you to help them. Go to vote.gov and get them registered at their current address, and make sure if they live in a state that requires voter ID that you help them. A lot of these people are new to the process, and we need to handhold them a little bit. But look, the fact of the matter is right now, as it stands, President Trump has won 10 million votes more than he did in the 2016 election. Voter registration wins elections, and we've seen that President Trump and the Republican Party have gained more because we've put an increased effort in voter registration.
And that is so important. I mean, we're looking at the margins right now in 6 states that are going to end up being decided by less than 100,000 votes, no matter what direction they go in. So if people at home don't know how important voter registration is at this point, I don't know what else to tell you, because this election is literally going to come down to the difference of a couple 10,000 votes in just a number of handful of counties. So I think another thing to take into account about this is the voter enthusiasm. I mean, I follow you on social media, and I suggest that everyone does as well. And I see the events that you put on that have outpouring of support, hundreds of thousands of people sometimes coming out, really just gathering at times. Sometimes that's all it is in order to keep them active. So do you think that regardless of the outcome of this election, that conservative enthusiasm is at an all-time high?
Well, number one, this election is not over until every legal vote is counted and audited. And we are not trying to affect the outcome of the election. We simply are fighting for a fair and free election. And yes, I think the enthusiasm is going to continue in the future, because I reaffirm and confirm that I myself am going to be a part of that future, and I hope to help lead the fight into 2022, 2024, 2028, 2032, and I'm not stopping for a gosh dang second.
And that's so important too, because these elections are not just won on November 3rd, for example, as you were very astutely laying out. It's about voter registration. It's about making sure people are keeping up with this system, making sure that they're involved and that their voices are being heard. I mean, that is the whole point of this democratic republic. It's what makes this country so great, is that everybody watching and everybody who shows up to your events, they get to participate in the greatest civilization that has ever existed on this planet. So when we talk about what comes next, what is your final word for those people as well, whether it's your upcoming events, whether it's the mentality that they should be carrying into the future?
I need you to show up. You need to show up and make your voices heard. Listen, this is going to come down to who has the tenacity and who has the spirit and who has the fight. And that's why I'm wearing this color red tonight, because I want people to know I am not going down without a peaceful fight. And this is a power color, signifying that our fire is only getting started. I need you to call your legislators every single day and demand an audit of the vote. I need you to show up this Saturday at the Freedom Plaza at noon for our Stop the Steal rally and our March for Trump. The media is going to show up because you are showing up. We had in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where I first led our Stop the Steal rally on the steps of the Capitol building, Jim Jordan and Scott Perry. Those representatives showed up because you showed up. You at home have the power. You are so completely power if you choose to hone that power and to raise your voices. So this fight will only end when you at home stop raising your voices. So don't let the fight end.
It's very well said. And before we let you go too, Scott, for anybody who wants to keep up with your movement and really the events that you're putting on, where can they follow you and get more information?
Please go to Twitter at Scott Presler. There's only one S in Presler. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at the same name, Scott Presler. And again, Freedom Plaza at noon this Saturday, the 14th, and I'll see you there.
I know One American News is going to be having some coverage of that as well. And for everybody else, you just heard where you can get your information too. Scott Presler, it's always a pleasure having you on this program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Alex.